Welcome back. This is KT24 this morning, of course, looking at our news super review. Big story, of course, off the back of a week that had billed its Tuesday, a super Tuesday, and super it was indeed, with a resounding, I think, 38 counties by the end of Tuesday, giving it a big nod as far as the BBI amendment bill is concerned. We're talking about that, but also we'll be moving this conversation forward to what we saw yesterday at the steps of State House and what this really means politically speaking as well. Have a very able panel for that discussion. Kiambu Township MCA Anthony Konyi in studio, Vivian Ta, governance expert in studio as well. We also have SG Third Way Alliance, Freddy Kokango in studio. Fred, let me start with you. Even as we talk about BBI and this particular point, and this is the time we need it. We're talking about the rhythmic violence and all of these things, but there's a big bread and butter issue, and CS Yatani is also speaking about the cash crunch that is there. It is imminent. Where he finds the money is the trick he'll have to perform by June. He's talked about extending the debt ceiling upwards to probably 12 trillion, and no one is talking about that. We're not hearing that conversation being had anywhere.
Jeff, before I tell you where the money for referendum will come from, I just want to make corrections because we have a duty to inform the public and give them the facts.
Please, go ahead.
One of the issues is it is not BBI that has recommended, that has proposed the requirement of population quota. The population quota is stipulated in the Constitution under Article 89, and therefore it is a constitutional principle. In fact, it is a general principle of electoral system that there shall be a fair representation based on the equality of vote. And if you look at the representation today, there are certain constituencies that have got over 600, a population of over 600,000. The requirement is that the population quota shall be around 132, 34. So that is a principle that we must implement. Number three, there's issue of expansion of executive. People who have argued that the executive is going to be expensive, it has been expanded, I think that is a propaganda, because the model that has been proposed in the BBI is that some of the members of the executive shall be members of parliament who are only earning one remuneration of being a member of parliament, and therefore we shall be saving. Number two, that executive also, that proposal also has been reflected in the provisions of SRC. Currently, the SRC can only regularize and review the remuneration and benefits of state officers. But the BBI proposes an amendment in Article 230 that says that other than regularizing, reviewing and looking at that, they can now also harmonize and ensure that the sustainability of that wage bill is in accordance with what is required. So they shall be looking at that wage bill that goes into parliament. In fact, there's nothing wrong of even having 700 members of parliament who are earning 200,000 or 300,000. So I think that one must be clear. Lastly, on what you have asked, the BBI has proposed economy and shared prosperity that recognizes equitable opportunities for all Kenyans, including hustlers, and therefore, that's why they are saying now livelihood shall be, agriculture shall be a means of livelihood that can bring money. Pastoralism, blue economy, digital economy. But how are we going to fund this referendum before we fund the implementation? Kenya has got friends. Jeff, this referendum can be funded by the people who believe that this country has suffered enough. This country now, the people of Kenya require more money at the grassroots. This country has undergone a lot of theft of public money, and we now need to put measures in place in the Constitution to protect public money from thieves. In going beyond the funding, because it is now clear that with the achievement of the over 41 county assemblies approving this bill after considering it, it is clear that this bill is going to pass overwhelmingly with over 70%. The implementation of this bill, as it becomes an act, will be done also by the same Kenyans, because it is the same Kenyans who made the proposal, and they said, we have a constitution that is progressive, but because the drafter of the constitution allowed us Kenyans to amend it whenever we feel that there is something that can be made better, they gave their proposals or propositions in a public participation forum. They went ahead and endorsed this bill over 3 million Kenyans. They went ahead and took the bill through their representative of the county assemblies, Anthony and the team, and they overwhelmingly approved it. There's nothing that is going to stop Kenyans from achieving what they want as enumerated in the bill. But this discussion that is now political, that, you know, the economy is doing so badly, we have not seen budget allocation for BBI referendum, I think that is selling fear. We must not sell fear to Kenyans.
Okay, Fred, let me jump in there. Let me jump in there. In all fairness, because you've spoken about friends who are willing to give money to Kenya. Let's talk about one of those friends, the IMF, for instance, who we are currently about to get into a 3-year loan deal with them. And part of the conditions therein is that we either have job cuts taken in terms of austerity measures, raise taxes as well. So even our friends, as you call them, have clearly seen there's a problem with our economy.
And that's why, Jeff, if you look at the proposal in BBI, it is proposed based on economic growth. Based on economic growth that now recognizes areas that were underlooked as now areas that can fetch money to grow this economy. The IMF and the international donors, I'm sure they are listening and they are understanding that this proposal is going to go in a long way to create jobs for this country. The young people that have been enjoying their space as a digital economy, who have not been monetizing, can now have a legal framework to monetize what they have. I know they are watching. I know they are listening. But you know what, Jeff? We cannot compare the cost of running this referendum with the cost of death after every 5 years. Baby Pendo and the rest. That cost of death is painful and huge in billions. We cannot compare the cost of lacking gender, 2/3 gender principle, by including our women in leadership, by the cost of running referendum. That cost is in billions. We cannot compare the cost of losing money, 1/3 of our budget of 3 trillion through corruption, by by trying not to amend the Constitution so that we can protect that 1/3. I mean, the cost of not doing what we're doing now is in billions. Kenyans are awake. There is a shortage of fools in this country. They have decided that they want this. Nothing will stop them, Jeff.
Anthony, I'll come to you on this because you decided you don't want it. You are the only one in Kiambu County actually who voted no on that, just to re-emphasize that. And from where you stand, I mean, even when the president was speaking in vernacular, in Kikuyu to Kikuyu radio stations, yes, and that soundbite definitely did the rounds when he spoke about 2 billion shillings being misappropriated every day. How do you deal with the ghost of corruption? Because everybody, whether you're for or against this bill, no, really, that's where the problem is.
Yes, but first, before I answer your question, I want to respond to my good friend there, who talked of we're going to save money through BBI by virtue of the fact that we're going to have members of the parliament becoming cabinet secretaries, or members of the county assemblies becoming, and only accruing an allowance, and just the basic salary that they get at the assembly or parliament, that kind of thing. I want to tell him, I'm in government, I will tell you something. Most government officials commit their basic salary to loans. They live on allowances. Basically, if you ask members of the county assembly or members of parliament to just live on allowances alone, they will agree. So when you tell me that they're not going to get an extra salary, they only live on allowances, they are looking for those allowances. It's way much more than the salary. So basically, there's nothing we're saving, you know. So that's a looting spree. So I want to say this. It's really, the other thing probably I would want to answer him is that, you know, he's my friend, and I told you we had a cup of tea with him. I'm telling you, we have serious economic issues that we need to deal with. And we have very little. And he has never budgeted himself what he's budgeting for his family. You never budget for your family or for your personal things that you want to do. Then you expect friends to just come and find you. When you're planning for something, you must know at the end of the day, where am I going to get funds to
do this?
To do this. But instead now he's telling us that we plan for BBI, and as much as there is a cost to it, our friends are going to help. No, it can't be that. We must ask ourselves, where are we going to get this money? What we have as a country is so small that we need to think around it and think whether the best thing is to do BBI or this thing can wait and do a proper economic recovery thing. Because as you said, and as you alluded to, the fact that we are now looking into asking Parliament to review our borrowing ceilings upwards. Seriously, who are we going to burden? Kenyans. So basically, I have a big problem with that. So when I hear the president, who I respect and have a lot of respect for, talk of the 2 billion is lost every single day, I mean, my heart cries out for every Kenyan. Because who is at the helm of power in this country? Who is heading the campaign against corruption? So when you tell us 2 billion is being lost, then you need to tell us where it's being lost and what are you doing about it. All right? And I was very happy yesterday when one of the courts here fined and has written to the Nairobi County Assembly in terms of there is a current MCA who solicited for a bribe of, I don't know, was it $1 million or something?
Mm-hmm. 1.7.
1.7. What happened is what should be happening in this country.
Okay.
We need to see an expeditious way, especially within our judicial system, dealing with corruption cases. Okay. So that is the way to go. But as a president, it would be very wrong when you tell us that we lose 2 billion every day, and you're not telling us where we lose that 2 billion and what you're doing about it. And we have not seen any prosecution. We have not seen anybody go to jail over it. Were it not for that case that we saw yesterday, which is quite encouraging. So we need to do more. Okay. We need to do more.
I want us to move this conversation forward because of time. Even I want to come to you and speak matters politic. Front page of the dailies this morning. It's all about those front steps at State House. And as you can see right there, 7-star BBI team, the PD rather is calling it at this point. And Ruto, again, conspicuously missing from this particular lineup. And it's Gideon who's chairing this. Do you think there's more than meets the eye politically from what you're seeing in that picture?
I think as we head to a general election, political realignments are expected and must be expected. It's typical for any period just before a general election. I think the Deputy President is, of course, allowed his democratic right to choose what he wants to be associated with and not associated with, even though, the head of state, His Excellency, the President, is in charge of this meeting. So but he's made it clear already. It's clear that there's been a fallout between the two, the head of state and his deputy. They seem to be speaking from different scripts. The Deputy President is now not, is proudly associated with another political party, UDA, which is not, you would not expect that to happen. You would expect that they would be, in one party, given that even the Deputy President publicly, publicly stated before that if anything was to go wrong in this government, that the two of them, His Excellency the President and himself, would be held accountable, would be held responsible. But in recent days, we've been seeing him trying to pass the buck, trying to make it look like, now he's not responsible and he has no part in the failures of, the Jubilee government. So I'm not surprised to see realignments. Remember also, Jeff, our politics is very ethnic-driven. When politicians are calculating numbers, they seem more often than not to calculate numbers based on ethnicity. So it's not a surprise when you see leaders from, various, communities in this meeting. My guess would be that maybe that's the mathematics, they are trying to do. It would be nice if we would move away from that and step into an arena where our politics is about issues, but sadly we are not there yet. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And more likely than not, even when we get to 2022, you will find the voter behavior, the voting pattern of most people will still be very ethnic leaning. Mm-hmm. So I am not surprised when I see this. I know, given the fallout between the president and the deputy president, I'm not surprised to see, Gideon Moi taking a forefront at this.
Okay. Fred, I'll come to you as well, because when you talk about fallouts, that's not the only one we've seen. Let's talk about the other members there. When you have Raila Odinga, Musalia Mudavadi, whose spokesman came out blazing after Raila's statement, and Moses Wetangula and Kalonzo as well. That was the NASA alliance, but clearly it doesn't seem like it'll make it to 2022. Raila saying he's not endorsing anybody at this particular point, and especially not these three after what happened at Uhuru Park. What do you think is going on here? Could this still be an alliance for 2022 with these 7 individuals that we see?
In politics, you read what is not said, and that's the most important thing. In that picture, there's a lot that has not been said and a lot that the media might not have seen, but it is coming. But let me just tell you, at the risk of sounding a preacher, and because I'm a Christian and I believe in God, 7 is the number of perfection. And 7 is the number of completeness. Remember, God created the world in 7 days. And therefore, if you look at that number, it is not just a number. It is a number of completion. Completion is a number that is perfectly put there, and it's a number that has been chosen. Number 2, I don't see a reason why the Deputy President is not going to join this gentleman soon. In fact, the Deputy President, William Ruto, will be joining this, not as number 8, but as a completion in the number 7. Going to the NASA issue, politics is about push and pull, it's about competition. Everyone is trying to catch the attention of the public so that people can see who is best suited to replace President Uhuru Kenyatta, who is now doing his last term. That will involve a lot of push and pull, and we are likely to see more. We have seen a lot of entrants in the race. Who knows? Even Okango tomorrow might come up and say, I'm running. But you see, the issue here is, how do we treat politics of 2022 different from politics of the referendum? The referendum is about the people. The 2022 is about the people and individuals who are looking for seats. There's no one is looking for seats in the referendum. It's about purely the public, and that's why the public involvement is key. What I would want to encourage our leaders is, let us ensure that we divorce these two issues. Even though constitutional amendments are political 70% and legal 30%, it is important that we now drive the agenda with the people in mind. The people have spoken, Jeff. They have said they want a constitution that is pro them. They have been given propositions in a bill that is pro the people. Now the leaders must now lead the constitution reforms through the people. And I think the 7 magic number, and I'm glad the newspapers are reporting the *7. That is okay. So let the *7 ensure that in leading this process, they include every Kenyan, because this is for the Kenyans. We want to ask, the competition in political parties should not come anywhere near the process of ensuring that Kenyans realize their First Amendment of the 2010 Constitution of Kenya 2010.
Anthony, you're the politician in the room as well, and currently in the county assembly.
Yes.
Do you think this is a vehicle just for the referendum purposes, or as what you're seeing here and as it's being built as the 7-star team, does it go beyond the referendum?
You can read a lot from this picture, and probably from what happened yesterday. And I've said this time and again, that one of the things that Raila Amolo Odinga and the NASA team wanted to do with BBI is to use BBI to revamp them back into politics. When they lost ground and realized they need to do something, they need some political activity that will get them back to the people. And one of those things is BBI. I want to believe that. And I've always said that Raila Amolo Odinga have always wished that Ruto would come out boldly and say no, so that they get in a context that will now make him ready for the 2022 elections. So basically, this could be a political alignment. You never know. You know, one thing with politics is that one day is too long, and a night, so many things would happen in the night. So we will see many alignments as time goes by. But I want to tell you that BBI is going to be used as a platform to revamp some people back into politics and to have them go to. Because ideally, if we did not have BBI, you know, you'd not go and hold a political rally somewhere in Wajir or anywhere with no reason. Now they have a reason to go back to the people. Mm-hmm. So basically, it's one of the platforms they're going to use. This could be a political arrangement, but I want to tell you this. We are going to see this again from the Ruto side. Who also come with these people, and they're going to have missions. But I will tell you, as my friend Okanga there said, and over that cup of tea yesterday, we discussed a lot of things. To the extent that he told me that he has a prophet, and he can see at one point Ruto will join this team, or these people will join Ruto, whoever joins who. But I am seeing a scenario, and I am queuing behind him in the prophecy. I would see a scenario probably by next year or thereabout. I can see Ruto and Raila probably sitting down and discussing something. You know, you never know. This is politics. Things can happen. But I'll tell you, political formations will start coming. That is why I normally tell people, don't take this thing too serious. You know, don't take it to the whole of your heart. You know, don't fight over these politicians. They'll sit down, drink tea and coffee and what have you, and then they'll do political alignment. So I am seeing a scenario, and this is why I'm telling you. The reason why I'm looking at the Daily Nation today when it talks of the big speech in Ruto's camp, you know, they're divided among us 3 opinions. One is to say no. Another one is to join BBI. Another one is to just stay silent. So they have options, you know, those 3 options. So there is a lot that will happening within political squares. But I'll tell you what we have to, what we saw yesterday could be a political formation. Yes. The other thing, probably before yes. I also think that probably Raila would have prevailed over Uhuru to help him. because there has been problems within the NASA. And you remember Kalonzo has started hurling insults and getting deep in terms of how the relationship has been. So probably Kalonzo Ibn Laira was not able to reach to Kalonzo. He told my friend Uhuru, so you call these guys and tell them now, I'm an old man, don't go hurling insults on me. I probably he managed to do that.
Vivian, let me get you in on this because has been said here, we need to read also what is not being said. And let's talk about the one person who is not here, DP Ruto. What are his options as of now?
Before I get into that, I think Anthony is a novice in politics compared to Raila Amolo Odinga. And I don't think he speaks for Raila Amolo Odinga. So there's no point in time or place where he would be able to factually say that, Raila needs revamping, Raila wishes to get help from somewhere. I think that's unfounded, to be honest. And going by just, the results we got from the August 2017 election, I don't think if there's a politician who needs revamping in Kenya, I don't think it's Raila Amolo Odinga. Maybe somebody else. Maybe, Musalia Mudavadi. Maybe Wetangula or any other person. But in terms of popularity and revamping, it would not be Raila Amolo Odinga. Okay.
That was his opinion.
Yes.
And it's noted.
Now, going to just maybe what options the Deputy President would be looking at. First of all, I think his influence seems to be waning.
Why do you say that?
His influence seems to be maybe overrated, if I can say that. Ooh. Because if we can get a county like Bomet and even Kericho, which are regarded as really within his stronghold area, of the Central Rift region, voting unanimously in support of the BBI, then it's very telling whether you want to put in the issue of car grant or not. Just the fact that, they went ahead and voted pro the BBI, it's really telling. It's almost as if, the Kipsigis community maybe just decided we do not want, a part in this whole no shenanigans. But it's very telling because if you're to think about consequences of maybe going against the kingpin of the region, for lack of a better word, then you would wonder, is even if you said the car grant was a bribe, would someone take it without knowing how they would go past 2022 if you're in a region considered to be pro-deputy president? So I think his influence is a little overrated. We are not seeing, there's been a lot of bravado from the deputy president's camp, but since the passing of this thing, we are seeing confusion. We're not seeing, clear direction, and that's very telling.
Do you think probably if the DP had been categorical in his position, because he's never said no, at least not publicly. This is all conjecture. He's always said he wants a win-win. If he indeed said no and took that stand against the BBI, don't you think probably Bomet and these other counties would have a different type of voting?
Well, there's no telling how maybe they would have voted in that scenario. Probably they would have voted no, but as at now, we would not know because, he did not take that stand. And that's another thing that's very worrying for me, for a politician to not have a set stand on something. You have to pick a stand. In some of these issues, there are no gray areas. We understand that you would want a win-win, but in some things, especially in regard to amending the Constitution just to correct some things or to make some things better, surely you should have a stand. It should be, a yes or no. There's no, middle ground. That makes you a fence-sitter, and that makes you what kind of leader again? Why should people trust you? Why should people follow you when on a simple matter of, going forward, like amending the Constitution just to make sure some things are included, like the office of the DPP is strengthened, issues of the economy are included. Why would you, fence sit?
Okay. Okango, let me come to you even as we wind this up, because it seems like at this particular point, the DP is doomed if he does, doomed if he doesn't, because as you can hear Vivian saying he's not taking a position. Yet again, if he did, the complaint would be, but he's the principal assistant of the president. His position should be the president's. Where does he go from here? At least until we get the magic 7 that you're talking about earlier in terms of all of them being in one alliance.
Jeff, I wouldn't really want to talk much about the DP because as I've stated before in the various shows, the Deputy President William Ruto will ultimately join the proponents of Constitutional Amendment Bill 2020. It is coming, it will happen. Number two, The issues of succession politics will only come after the bill has passed. And again, this bill is not about Raila Odinga. It's not about Ruto. It's not about Mudavadi. It's not about the seven. No, no, no. This bill is about the Kenyans. And that's why it would be better we discuss the bill and divorce our discussion from personality politics. The other thing that we must know is that, just like I said, in politics, the unspoken words are more important than the spoken words. The unspoken word here is that what next after passing the BBI? Because I can assure you, the bill, once it is introduced in Parliament next week on Thursday, it will be debated. And give it a week, it shall be passed overwhelming, and it will go for presidential assent. Then the president will instruct the IBC to conduct a referendum within 90 days. It is coming. Okay. What I am fearing is the realignment that will come after passing this bill in May. Because people who will now take advantage of opportunities that the BBI Constitutional Amendment Bill or Act then shall have presented to Kenyans will jump into these, you know, those Johnny come late. They'll come in and they'll take over. That is what I'm fearing. But as it is now, I can assure you, Jeff, the Deputy President will be joining this team, this team sooner than later. And the Kenyans, I want you to remember me for this. In the coming 2022 election, it will be a contest between the people who have decided to give Kenyans a platform and a roadmap and a blueprint of what will sustain their livelihood, and between those who have decided to go ahead and campaign without giving Kenyans a roadmap to their future. Okay. That is what is going to happen.
That's on record, Bwana SG, and of course we'll wait and see what happens as far as the alliances are concerned, and of course, as you said, 2022, but that's also where we wind up our discussion this morning. You can keep your feedback coming in. We'll be looking at that, of course, later on. You can get me at I am Jeff Mote or KT4 TV. Many thanks, Frederick Okango, SG, Third Way Alliance, for making time this morning. Anthony Konyi, Kiambu Township MCA, Asante Sana for making time as well. Vivian Ta, governance expert, thank you so much for being on the show. Take a short break. It's a hangout Friday. From here, there's a DJ in the house. I'm told the movie is at a hotel somewhere in Nairobi. It's not even in studio. That coming up and so much more. Don't go too far. This is KT4 This Morning.